ask you a question?
What do you have? Go ahead. No, that's enough. Go ahead.
Can I ask? But that wasn't my question.
The problem is you don't write the truth. So, as far as I'm concerned, I want to go to the next
Can
one.
I ask you a question about...
No, not CNN, please. Go ahead.
The White House has not responded to these allegations.
I told you. CNN is fake news. Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
But he says he was retaliated against, and that's why he was removed from his job. Do you have a response to that?
Okay, next question.
Mr. President, I have to hire a spokesperson just so that Elon Musk doesn't put out tweets that then confuse federal workers.
Are my press briefings not good enough for you, Jackie?
You're going to see some young faces in the next Trump administration. The president-elect announced his press secretary is going to be Karoline Leavitt. She is just 27 years old. She was a press secretary for his campaign. She was a fierce fighter and defender of his, both on the airwaves, going on all the different shows, and behind the scenes working with the press. So no surprise that he picked her. She was also a super young candidate not so long ago. In the 2022 midterms, she ran for Congress in her home state of New Hampshire. She did not succeed and then went on to work for the Trump campaign. And she's part of that new generation that was actually a big reason why Trump won the election. He won the youth vote by a way bigger margin than most Republicans have in recent years. And now he's bringing those new faces into his next administration.
Now, before I take questions, I would like to address an extremely dishonest narrative that we've seen emerging over the past few days. Many outlets in this room have been fear-mongering the American people into believing there is a constitutional crisis taking place here at the White House. I've been hearing those words a lot lately. But in fact, the real constitutional crisis is taking place within our judicial branch, where district court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority. Sure.
So U.S. consumer confidence fell this month, the most since August of 2021. What is your message for Americans who are concerned about the impact of things such as tariffs on prices?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for that question. It's obviously an important one. The president campaigned on reigniting the Trump economy and fixing the mess that was created by the previous administration in this country, and they must be held accountable.
And something different. There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So the United States asked that. Mary.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. I wanted to ask about this video that I saw this morning set to the tune of, I believe, Closing Time, about deportations of illegal migrants. What's the strategy behind the White House's videos they've been putting out on this, and can you kind of talk us through the thinking on these videos?
Sure. We are unafraid to message effectively what the president is doing on a daily basis to make our community safer. And the specific video you referenced, I think it sums up our immigration policy pretty well. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Go ahead. Without his consent or knowledge. And that's not just the president or me raising those questions, Caitlin. According to the New York Post, there are Biden officials from the previous White House who raised those questions and wondered if the president was even consulted about his legally binding signature being signed onto documents. And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the president of the United States autograph without his consent.
Is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of that?
You're a reporter. You should find. To the woman in the purple, because I saw you were making a face at my previous answer. So what's going on?
Well, actually, I have a couple of questions. At the core of pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses and elsewhere is a demand to end the war in Gaza, a goal that this administration actually supports and has pursued. So why has this not been acknowledged or highlighted even?
Because these colleges in these protests have again put out Hamas propaganda. The only reason Democrats have changed their minds on Tesla is because Elon Musk changed his mind on Donald Trump. That's the bottom line. I know AOC, for instance, used to drive a Tesla. I'm not sure if she still does. If she still does, it's because she knows it's a great American-made product. And that's why President Trump was proud to review some of those models at the White House yesterday. He ultimately went with the red sports model. It's actually sitting at West Exec right here at the White House now. But as you said, the president purchased the Cybertruck for his granddaughter, which is a very nice gesture. He campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
they
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies, they get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country, and it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
Why impose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring, as you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOGE and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOGE and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that...
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
Absolutely not.
So some of these,
thanks for the question.
Some elected Democrats are so steamed about DOGE. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver says we are at war. Ilhan Omar says we might actually see somebody get killed. And Chris Van Hollen says we have to fight this in the Congress. We have to fight this in the streets. So what now?
And may I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here, and for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
It sounds like something that they're most concerned about is DOGE engineers with access to Treasury systems. Can you clarify? Do the DOGE engineers have read-only access in these systems, so they are not allowed to write new code? They are.
Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws, and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have tried to point at the worst first. They all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the breaking
If they
room.
broke our nation's laws, yes, they are a criminal, yes.
Snoop Dogg.
Every time.
Always screw it up every time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever this video finds you, welcome to Ticks. All right, so apparently Caroline Leavitt did 2 press conferences today. One where she addressed people like me who cover the news on social media, and those who they have their own websites and everything. And she also talked about the economy. So I figured we'd start with the fun stuff first, right? And see exactly what she had to say to those of us who like to cover the media that she likes to call the new members of the new media. So let's start with there first and see what she had to say. And then we have enough time, we'll go on to the next one. So let's go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is our second official influencer briefing here at the White House in the beautiful South Court Auditorium. And as you can tell, in the White House, we are fully embracing new media. Trust in the mass media has fallen to record lows. Tens of millions of Americans are turning elsewhere to get their news and their information. That's why we've welcomed in openly independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, content creators, and we will continue to do so. President Trump and our White House also believe strongly in the First Amendment, which is why our team has restored the press passes of hundreds of journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the Biden administration. So thank you all so much for coming today, for your interest in covering the historic achievements of President Trump's first 100 days. And today officially marks 100 days of promises made and kept by President Trump. Our primary focus is how President Trump is in the process of rebuilding the world's greatest economy, just like he did in his first term. President Trump has created 345,000 jobs since taking office in January. Last month's job report, we saw 100,000 more jobs than economists predicted. It was the 4th highest month for private payroll growth in the past 2 years. 9,000 manufacturing jobs have been created and added to the economy already since January, and that's in comparison to the 6,000 manufacturing jobs that were lost per month in the final 2 years of the Biden administration. So each month we were losing 6,000 manufacturing jobs under President Trump. In just 100 days, we've added 9,000. The U.S. unemployment rate remains at historic lows. The labor force participation rate for those without a high school diploma is up. Good news for working class American families. And the veteran unemployment rate is down as well to 3.8% in March. When we came into office, it was 4.2%. Remote work among federal employees has fallen over 16 percentage points from March last year to March this year, showcasing the success of President Trump's initiative to bring federal workers back to the office. We know middle-class Americans, hardworking people, they have to show up to the office every day. We expect bureaucrats and government workers to do the same, especially when they are living off of the taxpayer's dime. If you want to work on behalf of the American taxpayer, you should show up to work in person. Thanks to President Trump, Americans are seeing the first price relief in years. The last inflation report showed the first consumer price decline in years, a decrease in energy prices, and real average hourly wage growth. President Trump is delivering on his promises to lower costs for American families and businesses. Prescription drug prices are down. Last month's drop in prescription drugs prices was the largest ever recorded. And thanks to President Trump ending Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy, gasoline prices and energy prices are down as well. The cost of wholesale eggs has decreased more than 50%. The President Trump inherited a complete mess from the Biden administration, who totally botched their response to the bird flu. They were killing chickens. They were killing our chicken supply in this country, which led to an increase in egg prices. And the president and Secretary Rollins did an incredible job attacking that on day one. On the deregulation front, President Trump is launching the largest deregulation campaign in American history. He has blocked all of the unfinalized Biden-era rules, which has saved us more than $180 billion already. He's launched a bold multi-agency effort to roll back existing federal regulations that drive up the cost of living on hardworking families. That has yielded more than $755 billion in total savings as well. And as you all know, investments from companies around the world continue to pour into this country, Every morning we wake up to a new headline with a new company from a different country announcing major investments in our country. What does that mean for people in your communities across the nation? It means jobs. It means Americans going to work. It means Americans providing for their families, for their children, living the American dream. And that's what those investments will do. It's truly the golden age of America. And that's why the president is working so hard to leverage good trade deals around the world. He knows America is the best place in the world to do business. He is using our leverage to negotiate good deals with countries around the world, to onshore manufacturing jobs here, to revitalize our middle class and our manufacturing industry, and also to protect our national security. I don't think any American agrees it's good that China currently supplies and produces our chips, our pharmaceuticals, and our critical industries. We want those things built in the United States of America. And President Trump is the first president in modern times to actually do something about that. So with that said, today is 100 days. There have been so many achievements, not just on the economic front, and the president continues to work very hard on tax cuts as well. And on negotiating those trade deals. But look at the success at the southern border, which we talked a lot about yesterday with our border czar, Tom Homan, Secretary Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller here at the White House, all of whom are doing a tremendous job and have created, at the president's direction, the most secure border in American history. We have a mass deportation campaign of illegal aliens underway. We are removing heinous criminals from your communities across the country. Every single day, we are making America safe again. And if you look abroad on the world stage, the president is really using his peace through strength foreign policy approach once again to the rest of the world knows that America is back. I know Joe Biden used to say that, but we're stealing it from him because it's actually true now. With President Trump in the Oval Office, the world is a safer place and will continue to be. So thanks for coming to the Influencer Briefing. I look forward to taking your questions. And Deborah, why don't you kick us off?
Congratulations on 100 incredible days. And over the first 100 days, the majority of policies that we've seen from the Trump administration have been either targeted at foreign affairs, such as bringing the American hostages home, or attempting to end the war between Ukraine and Russia, or on long-term goals such as cutting government spending with DOGE. What policies can we expect to see rolled out over the next few months that Americans will directly feel the effects of in order to secure the 2026 midterms for the Republican Party and keep his approval rating historically high?
Yeah, the first answer that comes to mind, Deborah, is definitely tax cuts. The president is working closely with Congress as we speak. He met with leadership from both chambers. The administration met with leadership from both chambers yesterday to talk about how we can quickly pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And the president promised on the campaign trail, he wanted no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security for our hardworking seniors, no tax on overtime pay. He intends to keep those promises, and he needs Congress's help to do so. That's why he's working closely with them. But you look at, again, I talked about the leverage the president uses to negotiate good trade deals around the world, but he uses that leverage right here in Washington as well on Capitol Hill. He has great relationships with leaders on both chambers, and we are confident that we can pass a massive tax bill, which will directly lead to more money in people's pockets right away. Sure, go ahead.
Wait, am I the only one that thinks that it's very stupid to tax people's Social Security checks? Like, now, if you're taxing me, I'm the working class man. I'm paying into Social Security. If that's the tax that they're talking about, sure, fine, I get it, whatever, I'm gonna need it. But if I'm collecting Social Security, why am I being taxed on it? Because I remember my mother got a letter. This was like 10, 15 years ago. She got a letter from the IRS. They were garnishing her Social Security check because she hadn't paid her taxes on it. And it's like, this is a retirement check. Why is she paying taxes on a retirement check? This is like fixed income money. This should not be taxed. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. At any rate,
Yeah, so the president has really wanted to end the war in Ukraine for a long time now and has been working on that in the first 100 days. We've seen President Zelensky come here, as well as the president meeting with President Zelensky just in the last couple of days. I'm wondering where those talks stand and if the president is optimistic that conflict is going to wrap up shortly.
The president is optimistic yet realistic about the incredibly complicated and unfortunate situation happening with Ukraine and Russia.
The room looks
First of all,
awfully
this is Biden's war. It would have never started if President Trump were in office. There is a reason that Putin did not invade Ukraine when President Trump was in the Oval Office, and it's because, again, President Trump leveraged the power of the United States to warn Putin not to do it. And the president has spoken about that in those direct warnings to the Kremlin that he gave in his first term. Then we had a mentally incompetent president in Joe Biden, who didn't even know what day it is, never mind knew how to prevent war. And the entire world took advantage of that and took advantage of America's lackluster leadership abroad. And so we've had this terrible war. The president talks about it all the time. He's briefed on it constantly. There are men dying on the front lines of this. An entire generation is being wiped out. And enough is enough. The president has made it very clear he wants to see this end at the negotiating table, not on the battlefield. He has spoken directly to both sides of this war. He most recently met with President Zelensky at the Vatican when he attended the funeral of Pope Francis. And he remains optimistic that both sides will come together to negotiate peace. There are a lot of complexities on both sides of this war, but so he's realistic about that, but he is optimistic that we are moving in the right direction. And if you just take a step back and look at where we are now, where you have concessions from both sides publicly, where you have ceasefire proposals from both sides. The president's made it clear he wants a permanent ceasefire first, but you actually have the United States talking to Russia. You have the United States talking to the Ukrainians on a daily basis, communicating with both sides. Look at that compared to where we were when we came into office, where neither side was talking. There was just one approach to ending this war. No one was really talking about a peace deal. We were just talking about continuing to send blank checks to continue funding the fighting and the killing. This war has been a meat grinder. Young men are dying. Women and children are dying as a collateral result of the military conflict, and the president wants to see it end as quickly and soon as possible. And I can tell you, watching firsthand, he has exuded a tremendous amount of effort into this war. He's getting frustrated with the amount of effort this has taken, and he's made that clear to both sides, but he remains optimistic that we can get this done.
Man, she's long-winded, but at least she speaks with purpose. You know, this whole situation, just to give y'all an update if y'all aren't updated, you're at a point now where Ukraine, they finally killed a Russian general, a top Russian general with a car bomb. And that's when you had Trump talk to Putin like, yo, chill out. Take a 3-day ceasefire. You know, let me deal with this funeral. I'll talk to Zelensky at the funeral. I have a one-on-one man-to-man talk with him, and we're going to try to get these papers signed. So what you saw when he was at the funeral, says like she preaching. Is she from the South? I'm not sure. Is she very, very informed? She knows her stuff, right? Unlike the other chick, what was that? The Carrie Prejean or whatever. But then again, she did say that the black chick, the last one, she was saying right before she came up to the podium, they were handing her documents. Here, this is what we want you to talk about. She like, yeah, so her press conferences were a mess. But at any rate, so at the funeral, you know, Trump, he sat down with Zelensky. Macron was calling himself trying to sit in Carrie Jean-Pierre. Thank you. So Macron, as Trump called him, the governor of France, was trying to be in on the talk. And he told him, no, like, do me a solid. Like, they had a lip reader that came out, was saying that Trump said, hey, look, let me just talk to him. Do me a solid. You know, let me talk to him by myself. So, of course, that's what happened. He had a talk with Zelensky. So, understand, Zelensky is the whole reason why all of this is being held up. He's been holding these peace talks up for months, ever since Trump came into office and has been trying to solve this. It's been Zelensky. He's been the thorn. What's up, Carlton? He's been the problem. So, as Lewis was saying, and we're almost a month in since the last time they talked. I think we're a month in. Lewis was saying over under, he said within 3 months, Zelensky is going to be removed. Like I'm saying, the reason why I'm giving him his credit, I'm giving him his props because he said it. He says Zelensky will more than likely be removed if he doesn't sign these papers. And you can see that Trump is getting frustrated with dealing with this guy. Like, dude, you're being stubborn for no reason. Cough it up. Do what's best for your people. Because although, you know, for those of us that's following the whole situation and following what Trump is doing, he's not the dictator, Nazi, fascist that people on that CNN tells you that he is. But don't be mistaken. He will make an executive decision and look the other way, because he almost did it. About almost 2 weeks ago, he almost turned his back on Ukraine and was like, "You handle it on your own. I am the UN. Okay, we're the United States. We are the UN. They can't help you. NATO cannot help you. We are NATO. We're NATO. We're the UN. We're everything that keeps that side of the world nice, safe, and secure. Do you understand that?" So he was going to turn his back on Zelensky and just let Ukraine, just let Russia take it. He was going to let Russia take it. He was going to make Zelensky come crawling back to him on his hands and knees. Please, please, miss me, your Trump saves me. But Trump is like, no, I can't do that because I'm playing games with innocent people's lives. So let me talk to him at the funeral. But I kind of get the feeling that within these 3 days, if Zelensky doesn't sign the paperwork, I think Trump is probably going to have a quiet conversation with Putin. Quiet little secure line, nobody's listening type of situation where it's like, you know what? I tell you what. Leave some gear. Leave some gear at the border or in some occupied territory, you know, at least about 20 miles inland. You know, leave some gear. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, you know, you can take the credit or the blame, however you want to do it. But don't worry, we'll handle it. We'll handle it. We'll handle it. Be it a SEAL team, be it the Marines, be it whatever. Green Berets, Black Berets, 7 Berets, Lakers in 5. Okay? They gonna handle it. They gonna trust me. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Because it's easier to remove the problem than to continue to drag this out and having thousands of people die every week. It's easier to remove one problem. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of one. All right, so let's get on to the next question. And y'all can quote Lewis on that. Let's go.
Brendan.
I was wondering if you'd indulge me in a quick...
Yep, I knew it. This room it's not filled with a lot of people. It's pretty empty. You can tell by the acoustic sound and everything. I mean, you got a black woman in there, but, you know, there's no brothers. I've seen this dude, this guy right here. He's normally on Sky News, Australia. He's an Australian guy. Yes, you know, his pillow has teeth marks in it. So, yeah, so I recognize him. I somewhat recognize her. I didn't recognize anybody on the other side, but if we get a wider shot, maybe we'll see some more people. But I think it's ridiculous that it's a small selection of people, in this so-called new media group that she's addressing. That's you should have filled the room. You should have filled the room.
A round of Trump trolling or Trump truthing?
Sure, let's do
Okay,
it.
good.
Love it.
Rapid fire. Greenland joining America.
Definitely Trump truthing.
Canada becoming a 51st state.
Trump truthing all the way. And the Canadians would benefit greatly, let me tell you that.
Eliminating the IRS.
I think that is an optimistic goal, and the president, so I would say we're on the side of truthing there for sure. And the president, again, wants to see tax cuts, and he wants to see this massive revenue that we can gain from tariffs as well, which will create the external revenue service. So that's a definitive goal for sure.
Yeah, that whole IRS thing, I think like first he was saying just eliminating it altogether. Then they changed it either early this month or late last month, changed it to anybody that makes under 150K. Now, supposedly it's people who make under 200K won't have to pay federal income tax, like ever, as far even on like filing and being taken out of your check. You know, that could, because he's trying to rebuild the middle class. And pretty much, let's just be honest, if you really want to end the war on poverty, then you have to free up the money. You have to free up the money. Giving the money to states, to where states, all they do is open up a soup kitchen and homeless shelters, is not how you defeat poverty. You know what I'm saying? That's like if somebody has the flu, all right, and all you do is you just give them a blanket or something, but you're not giving them any medication. You understand? You're not treating the problem. The problem is, number one, education, number two, finance. So with the elimination of the Department of Education, the DOE, you now put the education back into the state's hands and not the federal government's hands. So now us who live in these school districts, or those of us who are parents who have kids in these schools, hey, get active. Go to these PTA meetings, these school boards. You have to go out and vote. You have to change your curriculums. You got to get rid of these lazy teachers. All right, the teachers union keeps a lot of bad teachers floating around. You got to get rid of them. And the number one thing you definitely need to do is either you need to bring back corporal punishment back into the schools, or you need to take some of these abandoned schools and wind up moving problem children into those schools. When I was in Cleveland, like back in the 80s, John Hay, that was the criminal school. It was like a prison. All right. If you were a bad kid, being delinquent, fighting, you know, violence, whatever, you went to John Hay. You want to be disruptive? Hey, John Hay, get the hell up out of here. Like, they did not play. They didn't play. You need to bring that back. You need to bring that back. With the tariffs, they've got the factory jobs coming in, a lot of industry coming in. That gets, you know, men who are 18 plus that really don't, whether they have a high school education or not, whether they're skilled laborers or not. Those are warehouse jobs or unskilled labor jobs. Trucking, driving, forklift, all of that stuff. That's unskilled labor. You don't have to go to college to learn how to drive a truck or a forklift or anything like that. You really don't. You can get on the job training. You don't need a college degree to learn how to be a picker. Okay? Those of y'all who worked in warehouses, you know what I'm talking about. You get the order like for some parts or something. Okay, I need to pick 6 of these. I need to pick 2 of these. Picker. Warehouse jobs don't pay you at $15 an hour. They start you off with a grown man's salary. I don't know how they're going to start them off here in 2025, but usually a good $22 an hour and up, maybe 25. As far as like entry position, that's good money in this economy. That pays your rent. That pays your $2,000 a month apartment rent with money for your car, your insurance, your food, and whatever. That covers a lot of that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But that's how you end poverty. Win poverty by better educated class of people. All right, and bringing back jobs for unskilled laborers. Bring those jobs back, unskilled and skilled. All of these chicks with these garbage degrees that's got all this massive debt. You know, what do they call themselves? What did Sonny Holston, what was she trying to say? About crazy uneducated white women and crazy black men. Like, yeah, well, we see the most educated. We see what the most educated, how they're freaking out when Trump reinstated their student loan debt, which they're now garnishing out of these girls' checks. Like, no, you went to school to hair sniffing of Bulgaria. You took out $100,000 loan for that garbage degree. Ballroom dancing in Scandinavia. You took out that stupid loan. Got to pay it back. But the good news is a lot of companies, their secretary pool is about to open right on up. Oh, no. They call them office workers now. Office administrators. Those jobs are coming back for you. Oh, you say the sister and brunette exchange a flirty look at each other. Did you see that? No, I missed it. Collinwood, Glenwood, John Hay. Collinwood, okay, I graduated from Collinwood. Collinwood wasn't bad in the 80s. At least like from 85 to 89. It wasn't bad. Glenwood, yeah, I don't know too much about Glenwood. Let's see here. Yeah, but John Hay was terrible. Corporal punishment was lit back in the day. Oh my God. We had a teacher. He had Mr. Dunnigan. No, that was the art teacher. I cannot think of my 6th grade teacher, but he had a paddle that had like 3 holes in it. He had a paddle with 3 holes, and when he would swat you with that, ooh, I mean, he brought many kids to tears, but see, trucker, 27 years. Now I've worked warehouse and factory. You're absolutely right. Yeah, thanks, Ron. I appreciate the backup. Hold on. Let me see. Where did they exchange that glad? Well, okay. All right. I don't want to get off track. All right, we're almost done with this. Let's go.
And most importantly, Trump 2028.
Trump trolling. Although the hats are flying off the shelves. Yes. Link, go ahead.
So one thing I've noticed in the first 100 days is that the White House is crawling with kids. You have a young, beautiful baby boy. There are babies everywhere. There's so many young folks on staff who have kids.
Yeah, okay, I see it. Yeah, she wanna eat his dingleberries. Only she knew. She probably do know, but she's probably cool with it. It's okay. I like a fluid man. I'm a Tracy Ellis Ross disciple. Let me stop. All right, let's get back. He was talking about what he likes. He was talking about kids because he likes kids, I guess.
But the last 4 years under Joe Biden, parents were really stressed and ravaged. They had to take on 2 or 3 extra jobs. Depression rates were up, suicide rates were up. You're a very high-profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully. What advice do you have to young parents out there who are starting their careers, having kids, building families, and trying to find that balance so desperately?
Get you a husband.
Well, it's a great question. And first, to the heart of your premise, it's true. The president has empowered not just me as a young mother in this role, but there are so many new moms and dads on our senior staff in the West Wing, but also across the entire administration. There are working moms and dads who are owing our country public service for President Trump while raising young families. And the president really empowers us to do that. And I commend him for that. He doesn't get enough credit for it. But as for the president is implementing policies every day to uplift young families and young people. He talked so much about young people and talked directly to young people so much on the campaign trail. It really, I think, inspires him when he is around young people and a young audience. And he wants to restore the American dream for the next generation, not just our generation of young folks, but our children and our grandchildren. What does that look like? Home ownership, the ability to afford a home, to live, to have a good paying job. That's part of this effort to onshore jobs, because you have an entire generation going to these incredibly expensive and liberal higher education universities, coming out saddled with debt and then unable to get a good paying job. The president wants to put an end to that, and so that young people can provide for their families and truly live the American dream. So to young people around the country, the president hears you, he sees you, he loves you, and he wants to uplift you. And all of the policies he's implementing every day are to provide a more prosperous and safe and free America for future generations.
You know, it's funny that she say that, because, all right, sidebar, her husband is in his 50s or something like that. He's retired. I think she's 26, 27. Her husband's in his 50s. He's a multimillionaire. Should we cry about the age difference? Should we taco police her? Like, no, exactly. Bill Belichick, I want to bring that up. Nobody is trying to hot dog police Bill Belichick, because we already know what it is. You know what Bill Belichick is doing? Bill Belichick is cashing out his girlfriend. That's why when the question was asked about them, she's in the background like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Don't bring it up. And Bill just sitting there smiling. Because trust me, it's not love. But unlike a lot of these dudes who get caught up with these prostitutes, you got to cash them out. You got to cash them out. Young or old, you got to cash out your prostitutes. That chick, when her and Bill split, that chick ain't gonna have nothing bad to say, because she gonna walk away with a bag. She already got a job. You know what I'm saying? He's doing what he's doing. Like, yo, in exchange for me rearranging your guts for a minute, 30 seconds, I'm gonna make sure your bank account's straight. I'm gonna get you a job. We gonna travel, etc., etc., etc. You play your position, and I'll keep cashing you out. They have a mutual understanding. Karoline Leavitt and her husband, they have a mutual understanding. The guy asked her, how is it that you're a young mother and you're doing this and that and the other? Because her husband's retired. Who do you think is with the baby right this very second? If it ain't him, it's the nanny. You know? But as you heard her saying, Trump is trying to build back the American family. You say, how come women aren't glazing this woman in Pam Bondi? Yeah, because I heard Pam Bondi she's up there too. You know what I'm saying? Pam Bondi is up there. She looks young on TV, but when you get up close to her, you can see the age on her. You know? But at any rate, what Trump has to do, and this is something that us as men across the board, as most especially here in America, but we've been talking about, it's not a black issue or a white issue, it's a man issue. We need to do away with the prostitute culture. We don't have the power to do it. We don't. I know I get on the manosphere and whatnot for always, crying about how dry they are, they dry hot dogs. But the thing about it is that it takes legislation in order for that whole situation to correct itself. Us just not dating these chicks is not really helping the issue, because now, as you see, these girls are going for older men because they know the older men, they don't have that get out of my face mentality. I'm not cashing you out mentality. They have what you can call it a trick mentality, a sugar daddy mentality, but they clapping cheeks. They clapping cheeks while you crying about not clapping cheeks. I mean, sure, they doing it wrong. They making some stupid moves, but they getting the cheeks. But the only way you're going to wind up balancing that out is through legislation, which you say maybe they can create legislation to bring down OnlyFans. There has been talk about, curbing porn, but I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. And that's why I say this is going to be a hot summer. They're going to start auditing these states, because the one thing, remember I was saying yesterday, Trump's plan is to destroy the Democratic Party. Right now, you have a lot of illegals who are on stolen Social Security numbers. He's already audited the federal government. He already knows the formula. All right. Elon's going, here's how you do it. So now he's going to start hiring agents, federal agents, to go out, and they're going to start auditing states. This is how you get a Pritzker, Fred Flintstone, with all of that mouth. This is how you get him in jail or to step down. You just go through the money. You go through the money. You go through the government money, state by state by state. And then you start taking down all of these, especially in blue states. And you start taking down these governors, mayors, district attorneys, etc. You just start taking them down because everybody's been pocketing money. Everybody's been pocketing money. So you get them on fraud and corruption. But at the same time, what you're doing is you're also cleaning out the Social Security and the Medicaid rolls from illegals. You're also going to reform welfare to get the welfare cheats off of welfare. You understand? If you are an able-bodied person, they don't care how many kids you got. You better go find their daddies. If you're an able-bodied person, you're not disabled or elderly, you can forget it. They're going to kick you off the rolls. Watch. 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 You think people are upset now? Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they waited till after the primaries. But it's best to get it done before the primaries. It's best to get it done before the primaries, because what you're going to do then, you're going to have people like AOC and Jasmine Crockett and all of them. You're going to strip them of power because they'll be too busy fighting court cases for fraud and theft. All right? You knock these people out. You destroy the Democrats where they live. They no longer have a support structure. All right? They no longer have government slush funds. You do away with the illegals. Now you do away, when you do away with the illegals, you do away with their army. The only thing they'll have left is these old biddies, these old Karens, and their simp cuck husbands out there with protest signs. Where my son go? They're gonna be out there with their protest signs, just protesting just to be protesting. But they won't matter. They won't matter. He's winning the country over. He's winning people over step by step by step by step by step. Especially when he start kicking people off the welfare rolls. He could care less about the black vote. You say Trump should hire you for a strategy team. What you're saying makes sense. This is his strategy. I appreciate it, but I'm just telling you his strategy. All you gotta do is just, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just saying all you gotta do is just look at it. Just look at the trajectory of what he's doing. You got guys on here that they got channels. One guy was talking about people that are getting arrested for committing Social Security fraud. He was saying, like, man, like, ever since Trump and Doge and Elon talked about Social Security fraud and everything, and how they was cutting people off, he was like, the arrests have skyrocketed. skyrocketed. PPP loan arrests skyrocketed. They are not playing. They're going to clean this up. They're going to clean this up because the only way you're going to be able to do away with crime, you have to make, number one, you got to bring the jobs in, and in all honesty, you have to, because we're men, we go out and get it out of the mud. And as women, what women will do, either they will parasite their way onto their children's fathers, or to somebody that has the money, or they will try to go into prostitution. Prostitution is not for everybody. All right. Maybe they'll work 2 jobs. Maybe they'll latch on to their children's father. Maybe they'll actually hunt down their children's father and try to put them on child support. And you already know how Trump, he already put it in the law. Like, hey, look, if you, he said it. I think this was back in the first week of January, last week of January, first week of February. If you pay child support, you can put the child on your taxes, but the mother cannot, or the custodial parent that you're paying child support to cannot file the child on your taxes unless they're not getting child support. That's a federal law now. Do you understand? So no more paying $300 a month or whatever, and then it's tax time and you just stuck with your regular paycheck taxes. Meanwhile, she walking away with what, $9,000 to $12,000 extra in a tax boost because of the kid? Yeah, no more of that. Now you get the tax boost. You get the tax boost. You know, so now you got chicks, they're gonna have to do what I call home, well, not what but it's home math. They're gonna have to do home math. Trust me, he about to make people tighten their belts. We've gotten very fat and lazy and complacent and spoiled as Americans. And it's time for a wake-up call. And this is exactly what all of this is. It's a wake-up call. So, yeah, as far as the whole dating situation or whatnot, it will be interesting to see how what legislation he brings down the pike concerning concerning divorce. Because let's be honest, that's one of the biggest reasons why men don't want to get married, because they lose everything in a divorce. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that. Ooh, it's gonna be a hot summer. Let's go.
You're welcome. Sure. Hi,
Caroline,
you too.
Thank you so much for the time.
Sure.
Tagging off of Link's question about young people, one of the most pressing challenges for Gen Z right now is the lack of home ownership. As of 2025, I believe the median age is 38 years old of first-time home buyers, which is, a hindrance to starting families for a lot of people. How does the Trump administration plan on tackling this in the next 4 years?
It's a major issue. As you mentioned, that's directly impacting young people and young families. And the president is, I think, tackling it head on already. The reason that homes have become so unaffordable is because of the massive inflation crisis caused by the previous administration. Not just the cost of a home, but everything that goes into building a new home went up and through the roof, right? We also saw mortgage rates reach incredible highs under the previous administration. So a few things. The president wants to bring down the cost of living, which he is already doing, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, which will increase our supply of homes across the country. But he also wants to bring down mortgage rates and interest rates to make it easier for young people and all people to borrow money, to take out those loans, to buy your first home. And so we got to increase the supply, bring down costs, and bring down interest rates and mortgage rates. And by the way, those are all things the president successfully did in his first term. When he left office, inflation was a record low, 1.4%. Interest rates, mortgage rates also hit record lows in his first term. So this is a proven economic formula that works. It takes time to get there. We are in the process of the golden age. The president and the admin are slashing regulation every day, cutting red tape, cutting costs. And we need, again, Congress to pass those tax cuts to put more money back in people's pockets so they have greater purchasing power as well. You're welcome. Sure.
Teresa Nwuka with Independent Women and WMAL.
Oh, great.
We love working with the administration to really tout policies that work for families and work for small businesses in this country. Next week is Small Business Week, and I know that the SBA will be, championing all the small businesses, the millions in this country, almost half of which are women-owned. But I'd love to find out what the president feels about independent contractors who are not typical W-2 employees, not 9-to-5 workers, but who hang their own shingle. They're 1099 workers. We saw the Biden administration really try to crack down.
Wait, look. Okay, you're right. Look. So she's talking, right? But if you follow the trajectory of her eyes, she's acting like she's looking at her, but really she's just staring him down. She's staring him down. Let's see if she continues. Let's see.
On that small business entrepreneurial spirit.
Did y'all see that? Watch this. Watch what she do. Watch what she do.
Half of which are women-owned. But I'd love to find out what the president feels about independent contractors who are not typical W-2 employees, not 9-to-5 workers, but who hang their own shingle. They're 1099 workers. We saw the Biden administration really try to crack down on that small business entrepreneurial spirit. And we're hopeful that the administration would overturn what the Biden administration did and even work with Congress to pass
some uncomfortable. Look how he's leaning away from her.
Some lasting changes that would protect your ability to be self-employed, your ability to be a small business owner.
Well, the president is a businessman at heart himself, right? He's a real estate developer. And
No, she was licking her lips. She caught herself. She looking right at him. He's leaning. Look, you can see him leaning. He's leaning. You know when somebody's staring at you. You know when somebody's staring at you. He went from sitting regular to leaning, and he can tell he's trying to. He's moving his head and everything because he's uncomfortable. He's uncomfortable. She licked her lips and she caught herself. Oh my God. She got dreams of making him straight. Maybe you've never been with the right woman before. Yeah, but these are clearly preloaded questions. These people have already been set up to be there. What a waste of time this was, but at least we did get some useful information out of it. But let's continue.
And I think that's a large reason the American people elected him the first time and the second time, because they trusted him. And small businesses are the backbone of our American economy. I come from a small business family myself, and the president knows what small business families need and independent contractors need, entrepreneurs need. You need less government in the way. You need less regulation. You need low energy costs, low taxes, a low cost of living, a low cost of goods. And that's exactly what the president is focused on doing, while simultaneously effectively leveraging tariffs to protect our middle class and our working class and our manufacturing base. Look at our auto industry. Think about Michigan. It used to be the heartland of the auto industry of the world. It was the auto capital of the world. And unfortunately, so many of those jobs have gone overseas. And so the president wants to protect good paying jobs here at home and unleash the might of our economy for small business owners. And that includes removing red tape and cutting taxes. And as for independent contractors and what the president would hope to do with Congress, we'll definitely check back in on that and get you an answer because it's an important question. You're welcome. Sure.
Hi, Will from the National Pulse. You kind of gave us an overview of negotiations between Ukraine and Russia 100 days in. What would the next steps look like, though, if we don't reach an agreement by, say, this summer? And also, can you give us an update on the rare earth minerals deal with Ukraine? And is there any kind of response?
Cutting her eyes at him.
Greenlandic.
She's trying to chill out.
Vivian Motzfeldt, some of her comments about maybe seeking aid with China.
Sure. To your first question about the critical minerals deal, the president is confident that will be signed. Ukraine needs to sign it. They should sign it. It's not just good for the United States to recoup the billions of tax dollars we've spent and onshore some of those critical minerals, but certainly it's good for the Ukrainian people when this war is over to rebuild their country. It's an economic partnership between the United States and Ukraine. That's what the president envisions, and he wants Ukraine to sign that deal. He's confident that they will. As for what it would look like later down the road, I don't want to get ahead of the president, obviously, but again, I will reiterate, he's increasingly grown frustrated in the amount of time our Secretary of State recently said, there's not much more time or effort the United States has to give to this effort, and so we need both sides to come to the table to negotiate.
Yeah,
as for Greenland, I hadn't seen those comments. If true, I'm sure they are. Certainly an interesting strategy to cozy up to communist China. Greenland needs the United States of America. We subsidize their national security and their defense. And the president has rightfully pointed out the great strategic importance that Greenland serves for not just our national security and economic interests, but for our country and for the world as a whole. And we can't allow Chinese or Russian influence to continue to infiltrate places like Greenland or the Panama Canal, I may add. Into the back.
Can you talk about the importance of a stock market all-time high, specifically in relation to the midterms? It seems like a lot of folks, when Trump was elected, they thought that stock market goes up. He really cares about that. He uses it as a measurement of the economy. It's gone down, but it's still up, over the last 12 months or so. So how much of that is playing into some of the economic policy decisions?
I think the president has spoken on this. He said the stock market gets yippee, but he doesn't get yippee. He trusts in his economic agenda and formula, obviously. And, Wall Street made out very well in President Trump's first term. President Trump also wants to look out for Main Street and do what's best for both. So I think the president right now, his main focus, what drives him to make decisions is what's best for the working class Americans, for the American worker, for the small business owner, for American families. And he's trying to correct the wrongs of the last several decades, not just the last 4 years with the economic and inflation nightmare caused by the Biden administration, but of the unfair trade practices that have ripped off our country for a very long time. So look, the stock market goes up, it goes down, but President Trump has a goal, he has a vision, and he's remaining very much committed to that. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. We're heading off to Michigan tonight for a big rally, so I am sure we'll see all of your amazing creative content on social media.
All right, so I thought this was something worth. I should have went with the economic one. Let's see, we got a little time. You know what? Let's go with it. All right.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy first 100 days. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the bipartisan Take It Down Act passed the House last night. This important legislation was championed and guided through Congress by our wonderful First Lady, Melania Trump, including through her direct advocacy on behalf of survivors during her passage efforts. The Take It Down Act criminalizes the publication of non-consensual intimate imagery and requires social media and similar websites to remove such content within 48 hours of notice from a victim. The First Lady thanks all those who voted in favor of this important legislation, and the President looks forward to signing it when it arrives on his desk. Today officially marks 100 days of promises made and promises kept by President Trump. This has truly been the most historic start to a presidency in American history. After building the greatest economy in the world in his first term as president, President Trump is in the process of doing that all over again. The American people trust in President Trump. Since his first day in office, President Trump has focused on defeating the Biden inflation crisis, bringing down the cost of living, and making the United States the best place in the world to do business, invest, create jobs, and innovate. And President Trump's efforts are working. 345,000 jobs have already been added since the start of President Trump's term. Last month's jobs report saw nearly 100,000 more jobs than economists predicted, and it was the fourth highest month for private payroll growth in the past 2 years. 9,000 manufacturing jobs have been added to the economy already. This is a sharp contrast to the 6,000 manufacturing jobs that were lost each month in the final 2 years of the Biden administration. The U.S. employment rate remains at historic lows. And thanks to President Trump, Americans are seeing price relief for the first time in years. The last inflation report showed the first consumer price decline since the COVID pandemic, a decrease in energy prices, and real average hourly wage growth. President Trump is delivering on his promises to lower costs for American families and businesses. Prices across the board for everyday goods have seen declines since this president was inaugurated. From airfare to used motor vehicles to prescription drugs, prices are dropping. In fact, last month's drop in the price of prescription drugs was the largest ever recorded. And after Joe Biden botched the response to the bird flu, President Trump and Secretary Rawlings' aggressive plan have brought down wholesale egg prices more than 50% from Inauguration Day. President Trump ended Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy and fossil fuels and has restored American energy dominance. Secretary Golden Age of America, which is underway. Immediately upon taking office, President Trump blocked all of the unfinalized Biden-era rules, his own leverage, like this president, and we are just getting started. Republicans in Congress are getting very close to passing President Trump's one big, beautiful bill, which will include the largest tax cuts in American history, strong border security measures, major military advancements, dramatic deregulation, and common sense spending reforms.
Yeah, he just today in Michigan announced they're rolling out new fighter jets, because I guess the fighter jets that we're using are outdated. So he told the Air Force, he was at the Air Force base, he told them, hey, look, about to roll out some new fighter jets, so you guys get ready for that. And they were, thunderous applause.
As President Trump has said before, the best is yet to come. For more on President Trump's economic successes so far and the plans ahead, I want to pass it off to our incredible Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who is here today, and we will open it up to questions. In our new media seat, we have Brendan Peterson, the financial services reporter for Punchbowl News. Punchbowl News covers power, people, and politics.
Wait. How come he looks like he looks like George McFly if he went into politics? So he looks like George McFly. That's a compliment, brother. Let's get into it.
Politics based in Washington, D.C., laser focus on Capitol Hill, the politics of legislating, founded in 2021. And it is the first newsletter that Capitol Hill and the White House reads every morning in the middle of the day and throughout the evening. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll start with you today.
Thanks so much for being here. I have a question for Secretary Bessent. On tariffs, the president said over the weekend that we are hoping that maybe tariff revenues could replace income tax. But we also keep hearing about the deals that the administration is pursuing. So my question is, what is the White House's ultimate objective here? Do you want...
All right, so we got Miss Pantsuit with the horrible shoes. She's back in here. We got California Cute, and it looked like she bumped her head. She got a boo-boo right there. Hope she didn't get mugged or anything like that. So we'll see. You watch these press conferences, you kind of get used to these faces. But let's get back to it. I'm sorry.
Want to have long-term tariff revenue or deals that might reduce those tariffs?
I think it's a combination of both. So we're going to take in long-term tariff revenue. We put a process in place. We have 18 important trading relationships. We will be speaking to all of those partners, or at least 17 of them, over the next few weeks. Many of them have already come to Washington. What President Trump is referring to is the ability for tariff revenue to give income tax relief. And I think there's a very good chance that we will see this in the upcoming tax bill. The president campaigned on no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and the restoring interest deductibility for autos, for American-made autos. So tariff income could be used for tax relief on all of those immediately.
Yeah,
so you think that there is a role for significant tariff revenue in U.S. fiscal policy?
All right. I know. Hold on. So at least I don't know what the hell type shoes she's wearing, but at least it matches her top. But they look terrible. Look like she's wearing slides. This chick, her foot gear is just terrible, just flat out terrible. I had to point that out. If y'all been watching this, y'all know she's a stickler of me. Oh look, we got Caitlin Collins, everybody's favorite a-hole reporter. She's over in the corner. Okay, let's see how lively this press conference is going to be. Let's go.
For significant tariff revenue in U.S. fiscal policy.
I think that it is something that got put away a long time ago, and I think that tariffs will bring back American manufacturing and generate substantial revenues.
On manufacturing, we've seen some pretty grisly surveys this month from the Philly Fed, which saw the biggest drop since May of 2020, and the Dallas Fed, similar plunging outlook, poor shipping orders. What are American manufacturers not understanding about your push for onshoring in the U.S.?
Well, I think I was in the investment business 35 years, and I learned to ignore the survey data and look at the actual data, and the actual data has been quite good. The job data is good. Americans keep spending, and as Karoline said, we have these incredible commitments to bring manufacturing back on shore with record investment by domestic corporations and foreigners who want to come into the U.S.
Rija. Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The Chinese continue to say that the U.S. and China are not engaged in any consultation or negotiation on tariffs. You recently said you've talked to your counterpart, but more about quote, traditional things like financial stability. So can you clarify, is the administration talking to Beijing specifically about tariffs or not?
Well, we're not going to.
All right. So before you answer that question, tomorrow, if I get a chance, I'm going to do a show based on what's going on in China ever since these tariffs were enacted on them. They are suffering greatly. I know they're trying to save face, but their people are suffering greatly. Ever since we did that to them, I don't think China gonna make it. They're already talking about kicking their leader out. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but yeah, we're gonna do a show. I'm gonna show y'all just how bad China's had it over the past couple of weeks.
I'm going to talk about who's talking to whom, but I think that over time we will see that the Chinese tariffs are unsustainable for China. I've seen some very large numbers over the past few days that show if these numbers stay on, Chinese could lose 10 million jobs very quickly. And even if there is a drop in the tariffs, that they could lose 5 million jobs. So remember that we are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them. So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs. They're unsustainable for them.
And they are saying you guys are not talking about it. So is that true?
Look, they have a different form of government. They're playing to a different audience. So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty again of who's talking to whom. But as I said, I believe for the Chinese, these tariffs are unsustainable.
And very quickly, 2 days ago, you said you didn't know if President Trump had spoken to Xi Jinping. Do you know now?
Again, I would say Karoline and I have a lot of jobs around the White House. Running the switchboard isn't one of them.
Trust me, they've been talking. Trump he said it last week. Like, yeah, we talk to them almost every day. They're talking. But the thing with China is trying to, again, save face. If you're familiar with Asian culture, they're trying to save face in front of their people as if they're the strong ones, because they don't want to be seen as weak, even though they are weak. All right, even though they are weak. So they're playing the game with their people, and clearly him and Karoline, they don't want to get into the politics of that. I see where she's going with her questions. She knows what's up, but she wants to get an official statement And as you can see, neither one of them want to answer the question because they know what's up. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. So,
Bloomberg, go ahead. Secretary Bisson, thank you so much for being here this morning. You've talked about the importance of giving investors certainty when it comes to the market, yet the Trump administration is continuing to negotiate several complex trade deals in a very sort of compressed time frame. When do you expect you'll be able to give the market some certainty around those deals? Do you have a deadline? Is it the 90-day pause? What are we looking at here?
Good question. And I think one thing that has been a little disconcerting for the markets is, President Trump creates what I would call strategic uncertainty in the negotiations. So he is more concerned about getting the best possible trade deals for the American people. We had 4 years of bad deals for decades of unfair trading, and we are going to unwind those and make them fair. What we are doing is we've created a process. I think the aperture of uncertainty will be narrowing, and as we start moving forward announcing deals, then there will be certainty. But certainty is not necessarily a good thing in negotiating.
Mr. Secretary, last night there were reports on the administration sort of walking back a little bit on the auto tariffs. Can you sort of just elaborate on that decision there and what we can expect going forward and why sort of a shift in those auto tariffs?
Well, President Trump has had meetings with both domestic and foreign auto producers, and he's committed to bringing back auto production to the U.S. So we want to give the automakers a path to do that quickly, efficiently, and create as many jobs as possible.
Jasmine. Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you, Secretary. Back from China, does the administration anticipate supply chain shocks or supply shocks coming now that cargo shipments from China are significantly down? And if so, are there plans in the process of how to address that?
I wouldn't think that we would have supply chain shocks, and I think retailers have managed their inventory in front of this. I speak to dozens of companies, sometimes daily, but definitely weekly, and they know that President Trump is committed to fair trade and have planned accordingly.
And then second question, can you outline the timeline for when you think some of these deals, particularly with your Asian countries like India, Japan, South Korea, you may have an announcement?
Damn, she all dialed up. You see the white chick right here? She all dialed up. Like, I saw her yesterday. She wasn't this dialed up, I mean, her hair was still fluff, but she did something different with her makeup. She gave herself them cat eyes. You're doing too much, honey. Calm it down. Calm it down. Calm it down.
I'm glad you brought up our Asian trading partners and allies. They have been the most forthcoming in terms of doing the deals. As I mentioned, Vice President Vance was in India last week. I think that he and Modi made some very good progress, so I could see some announcements on India. I could see the contours of a deal with the Republic of Korea coming together, and then we've had substantial talks with the Japanese.
Andrea.
Secretary Besson, just continuing on the path of the sort of progress. You said yesterday, I think, that it was could happen as early as this week or possibly next week. Can you give us a bit of a timetable? And then I wanted to ask about South Korea specifically. They've said that they probably won't be able to make a comprehensive deal.
You want to ask about your knitting? Let me stop. With old manly Kate. Let me stop.
Until early July because of their elections. Japan also has elections. And to what extent are domestic factors complicating your efforts? Canada just had an election. Are you seeing that you might have to think about delaying the 90 days?
Well, I would actually take the opposite tack, that I think from our talks that these governments actually want to have the framework of a trade deal done before they go into elections to show that they have successfully negotiated with the United States. So we are finding that they are actually much more keen to come to the table, get this done, and then go home and campaign on it.
Sean, I'm sorry, did you have a comment on whether something could happen this week or next week?
For
a deal. So, you said yesterday.
Again, I think that we are very close on India. And in India, just a little inside baseball, in India, in a funny way, is easier to negotiate with than many other countries because they have very high tariffs and lots of tariffs. So it's much easier to confront the direct tariffs when as we go through these unfair trade deals that have been put in over decades, that the non-tariff trade barriers can be much more insidious and also harder to detect. So a country like India, which has the posted and ready tariffs, it's much easier to negotiate with them. So I think the India negotiations are moving well.
Sean, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Secretary. So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies?
From what I understand, because I saw that earlier today, and from what I understand, Amazon, they backtracked on that. So let's see what his response is.
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon. And Secretary, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would also add that the bringing down the terrible Biden inflation has been a priority for the first 100 days of the Trump administration, and President Trump has done a great job of leading that since January 20th. Interest rates, mortgage rates are down, gasoline and energy prices are down. We're expecting the further decreases. And as Karoline said, the big tax on consumers that goes unnoticed is deregulation or regulation, and we are deregulating and bringing that down. So, from a household income point of view, we would expect real purchasing increases. We've seen them over the first 100 days, and we would expect that to accelerate. We are doing peace deals, trade deals, tax deals, and deregulating. And the deregulation is a longer lead time, but I think by the third and fourth quarters, that's really going to kick in.
Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. A question for you and Secretary Bessent. We talk a lot about volatility and uncertainty in the marketplace, and the president has stated all along that he's more concerned about mainstream America, the American world.
Time out. I see. You know what? I've noticed now the White House, because I understand the White House and Forbes, their YouTube channels carry these press conferences. The White House actually does crowd shots where Forbes just stays stuck on the podium. I've noticed this the past 2 days now that the White House cameraman, they now, instead of them doing the wide shot like they used to do, because I would have to circle the reporter so we could see who was talking. If y'all noticed, I haven't had to do that. I mean, I've done it, but I haven't had to. So they've actually improved their camera work. Good job. Good job. Anyway.
Worker. You just talked about deregulation and this entire fair trade and reciprocals. What is your message to the American people in terms of letting them get through this disturbance and the outcome being greater and a greater good for the American worker the American people, the American families?
I would say trust in President Trump. There's a reason he was reelected to this office. It's because of the historic success of his economic formula in the first term. And as I laid out at the beginning of the briefing and the secretary has talked about and the president talks about every day, there's a proven formula that works. Massive deregulation, energy independence, and tax cuts, which are coming. And the secretary is working very hard on that with our counterparts on Capitol Hill. If you want to talk about that, that's a huge deal to put more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. As for the fair trade deals the president is trying to negotiate, he's not just righting the wrong of the mess that he inherited from the past 4 years of the Biden administration. This is a mess that has been created for the past 4 decades that has sold out the middle class, that has moved jobs overseas. You think about our heartland, middle America, what towns used to look like, what they look like today. President Trump wants to restore the golden age, and it's a process to do that. And that process is underway, but he's put together a fantastic trade team. Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, Jamieson Greer, all working incredibly hard on this effort 24/7. But tax cuts are coming, and that's key. And Mr. Secretary, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's really a three-legged stool in the economic policy. It's trade, it's tax, and it's deregulation. So we are in the midst of addressing, as Karoline said, these long-term trade imbalances. The tax bill is going much better than I would have thought when I took office on January 28th. And that's through President Trump's leadership. That Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune are united. Speaker Johnson, we had a very good meeting yesterday with somebody called the Big Six, NEC Director Kevin Hassett, myself, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, Committee Chairman Jason Smith, and Senator Crapo. And the tax bill is moving forward. It is going to give permanence to the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act, which will, back to the question on certainty, it will give American business certainty, it will give American people certainty. And then President Trump is also adding the things for working Americans that is talked about earlier: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, making auto payments deductible. So that will substantially address the affordability crisis. And the other thing that I would note, and back to data, is that the Vanguard, one of the largest money management firms in America, said that over the past 100 days, 97% of Americans haven't done a trade. And in fact, individual investors have held tight while institutional investors have panicked. So individual investors trust investors trust President Trump.
Megan, in the back.
Thank you both. Can you detail for us exactly what we should expect as far as relief on the auto tariffs front? And then further, Mr. Secretary, should we expect other industries to also get relief the way we've now seen for auto and tech as well?
I'm not going to go into the details of the auto tariff relief, but I can tell you that it will go substantially toward reshoring American auto manufacturing. And again, the goal here is to bring back the high quality industrial jobs to the U.S. President Trump is interested in the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past. We don't need to necessarily have a booming textile industry like where I grew up again, but we do want to have precision manufacturing and bring that back. And another important, very important function of this that does not get talked about enough is national security. President Trump, his overriding the concern and belief is that economic security is national security is economic security. And we saw during COVID that our supply chains got cut off. And we need to bring back a lot of those supply chains, whether it's in semiconductors, medicines, the steel, and we have to onshore those. So it's a combination of making trade free and fair and remedying this gaping national security hole that he was left with.
And if I could on China,
I would just add, Megan, the president will sign the executive order on auto tariffs later today, and we will release it as we always do. Go ahead.
Secretary, can you update on the negotiation with the European Union, and is it hard to negotiate with the European Union?
Pardon?
Do you have
what
any
you say?
updates on the negotiation with the European Union?
I'm more involved in the Asian negotiations. My observation would be, goes all the way back to Henry Kissinger's statement, when I call Europe, who do I call? So we're negotiating with a lot of different interests. Some of the European countries have put on an unfair digital service tax on our big internet provider. France and Italy, other countries, Germany and Poland, don't have that. So we want to see that unfair tax of one of America's great industries removed. So it's going to be a give and take. So they have some internal matters to decide before they can engage in an external negotiation.
Edward.
Thanks, Caroline. Mr. Secretary, so contacts I have in the business community say that they're basically frozen for long-term investment because of the uncertainty around tariffs. How long do you think President Trump has to make a deal before there's damage to the economy?
Look, I think that what we're seeing is that business leaders, they've gone into a pause, and I think we're going to give them great certainty on this tax bill. And I think over the next couple of weeks, as I said, we have 18 important trading relationships. We'll put China to the side. 17 they are in motion. And then, as I said yesterday, I think there's a very good chance we're going to get this tax bill done. And the tax bill is going to be very powerful for domestic U.S. investment. So what we are going to do, one of the most powerful parts of President Trump's 2017 tax bill was full expensing of equipment. We are going to make that, as President Trump said in his speech to Congress, that will be retroactive to January 20th. The other thing that we are looking to add is full expensing for factories. So bring your factory back. You can fully expense the equipment and the building. We will couple that with deregulation, cheap energy, and regulatory certainty, and that will continue to make the U.S. the greatest destination for domestic and foreign investment.
So if y'all didn't catch that, the auto industries that have come back, they can write off their new buildings, because understand, they had to build new factories. They couldn't refurbish the old ones. They had to build new factories. They can write those factories off on their taxes. That's like buying a new house and writing the house off on your taxes. You got it free and clear outside of the land tax. Oh, by the way, did you hear that, Tiffany Cross? They're letting China, Trump is handling China. He said he's not worried about China. They're letting China popsicles hang. Okay? The ball is in their court because they don't have the cards. Anyway, we're almost done here.
The president, well, if I can follow, just the president said that world leaders would like to meet with him in Rome, in Vatican City, about trade. Other than President Zelensky, who did the president meet with and about trade, and when could we get some of those deals?
The president met with President Zelensky, as you know, which we talked about, and the president continues to be engaged with his fellow leaders around the world in the European Union. You've seen many of them visit the White House. I want to harp on, in closing, the point the secretary just made. On the campaign trail, the president promised the American public that he was going to make America the best country in the world to do business again. The lowest taxes, lowest regulation, lowest energy costs of anywhere in the world. And if you do business in the United States, you won't pay a tariff, you won't pay a price. That's not just good for companies around the world, but it's good for the American worker. That's what this team is focused so hard on every day. We have work to do. The golden age of America is underway. But as I pointed out in the beginning, there's a lot of reason for the American consumer, the American CEO, the American small business owner to be confident and optimistic about this president and where we're headed. So you will hear more from the president himself later.
You got to clean up crime. She keep talking about small businesses, just like the black chick asked in the first meeting. But you have to clean up crime. You have got to clean up crime. You have got to change the crime laws and start prosecuting people. If you don't, the small businesses are still going to suffer. You have to do away with that. Anything under $1,000 is not a crime law. You have to do away with that. All right. You have to stop you have to stop lowering the charges on people who commit heinous acts of violence. Heinous acts of violence. If you don't, then what is the point of talking about small businesses? I know I got her on the wrong type of look, but you get it.
Later this evening,
Be
he
all right.
is traveling to Michigan, as you all know.
But still, but as far as like what he did with the auto industry, where they can file the new bills on their taxes, get their money back. I know people who on the left who are silly and don't know how things work. They see it on the surface. They think that, oh, he's giving his billionaire friends a tax break. I'm sorry, who writes your checks? Who writes your checks? It's just like with the bank bailouts. If banks go belly up, you know what happens? You're in a bread and soup line. You lose your house. You lose your job. It's not just the bank that shuts down. It's unfortunate that you have to bail out banks. It's unfortunate that you have to give tax breaks to the auto industry in order for them to come here. But in the long run, the average American, the average citizen, the average brother benefits. One hand has to wash the other for the betterment of everybody. They save that money like, yo, we need 10,000 workers at this plant. Let's go. We need 10,000 workers. Let's go. We got the money. It's in the budget. Let's go. Shoot. And now that you can, as they're talking, which is going to become a reality, where you can write your car off, a new car purchase off on your taxes. You can write a new car purchase off on your taxes. You get a tax deduction on that. Ah, shoot. The second that's solid, that goes into effect, I'm buying a new car. I'm buying a new car. Just because I can, damn it. All right, y'all, let's get out of here. You say the Democrats will fight tooth and nail to keep crime. I know. They're so anti-American because, you know, Trump bad. Because
Trump bad.
Can't help themselves. But yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow. We'll go over. We're gonna check out the China Insider. Y'all gonna see just how bad China is got it. Matter of fact, come to find out, with that earthquake that hit Thailand or whatnot, Taiwan, is it Thailand? Come to find out the steel that they had been using, that, you know, because they had Chinese builders or whatnot. Come to find out they wasn't even using steel. They wasn't using real steel. They was using foam. This is, oh my God. I was watching the video the other day. The average building, the average life of a building in China, you will never guess how long, like an apartment. Let's say they built an apartment complex. How long do you think an apartment complex, a newly built apartment complex is supposed to last before it breaks down and is unlivable? What do you say, 40 years, 50 years, maybe 60, maybe 80? In China, 25 years, because they use cheap materials to build. Cheap materials. And they spread that across the country. I mean, across the world. You say 3 years? I guess if it's on 55th and Kinsman, yeah, Carlton. Yeah, but yeah, those buildings do not last. They don't last. They constantly are rebuilding with cheap materials and cheap goods. And now we've destroyed their economy. That's why we don't need anything from China. Whatever we get from China, we can make here in the United States, or we can get it from somewhere else. But we definitely don't need Chinese steel. Aluminum foil on the outside, foam rubber on the inside. The hell up out of here. Yeah, but we're going to cover that tomorrow. That's going to be a fun one. I know this one's kind of boring, but you know, it's good to know exactly what's going on there in the White House. But yeah, looking into China, yeah, that's going to be fun. I'll catch y'all tomorrow.
What do you have? Go ahead. No, that's enough. Go ahead.
But that wasn't my question.
The problem is you don't write the truth. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I want to go to the next
Can
one.
I ask you a question about
No, not CNN, please. Go ahead.
The White House is not
You don't.
responded to these
I told you. CNN is fake news. Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
But he says he was retaliated against, and that's why he was removed from his job. Do you have a response to that?
Okay, next question.
Mr. President, I have...
Because Trump bad. Trump bad.
All right, bye. Thanks for the fun.